Barbara and I continued our adventures in the middle-aged meat market. Having agreed over our cup of cocoa that speed dating would be our next big adventure, we scoured the newspapers and internets looking for an event to attend. Initially, our searches proved fruitless because most of these occasions seemed to be aimed at a younger market. Then, just as I was beginning to despair, I saw a tiny little advert in the local newspaper promoting speed dating for the 50+. Aha, gold. I promptly rang the number and made the booking. Proceedings were to take place in a trendy bar on a Tuesday evening in the next town. It all seemed like a good idea at the time, but as the day of the event approached, I began to feel a little apprehensive. The prospect of being cast into a melee of women, trying to impress them with my urbane wit and charm in the space of 3 minutes, the time you're allowed to talk to each one, suddenly seemed rather daunting. However, in for a penny, in for a pound, and if Barbara was experiencing nerves, she didn't show them to me when she turned up on the doorstep in her best frock. The moment we arrived, Barbara and I were separated. She was quickly hustled into an inner sanctum, away from the prying eyes of the other men who were waiting restlessly in an outer room. I waited restlessly with them. An attractive hostess mingled amongst us, handing out the form we were expected to fill in as we met each lady in the speed dating process. We were told to write down the name of each person met, make some notes about that person, and then tick either the yes or no box, so indicating whether we'd like the opportunity of meeting that person again or not. I asked our elegant hostess how many people were expected that evening. It was going to be 10 men and 14 women, she explained with a sensual smile. I wanted to impress her with my urbane wit and charm, but she disappeared before I had a chance to open my mouth. So I got into conversation with 3 other chaps instead. One seemed very personable, an upmarket bloke called Tom, who had an easy and calm air about him. He had a bit of the country gent about him and was an ardent horse rider. Tom had done speed dating once before and assured the rest of us that there was nothing to this bit of malarkey. Just be yourself, he said with a twinkle in his eye. In contrast, Derek, a rather serious-looking college lecturer, seemed very strained by it all. He didn't seem to be able to look you in the eye, and any attempt to engage him in the conversation resulted in a grunt, followed by an inaudible mumble and averted gaze. There was something about his appearance that didn't seem quite right, a sort of lopsided look, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. Then there was Cole, who looked as though he'd had the misfortune of having his face run over by a bus. An occupational hazard, I suppose, when I learned that he was, in fact, a bus driver. While Tom and I had opted for smart casual dress and Derek a suit and tie, Cole wore a pair of ill-fitting jeans and a vividly coloured t-shirt with a horizontal hoop pattern that did little for him except accentuate his very substantial belly. There's no accounting for taste, of course, and he was brazenly confident that he was going to pull that night. Before we had time to speculate any further on our respective chances, we were off. Our glamorous hostess shepherded us into a room where the girls were waiting. We were greeted with a sea of expectant, smiling faces. Some of the smiles visibly began to fade when they saw more fully the male talent on offer that night. This really was the middle-aged meat market in the raw. So would the men, including me, be eaten alive?